Now we've created a new caste system, a new aristocracy. So a victim, often self-proclaimed, will say, I've got all of these grievances and I'm owed and I need those addressed. And society's left saying, well, if we say sorry and try and meet them, hope you'll appreciate it. But no, they'll say, we were owed. Mm-hmm. If you don't, then you confirm their victimhood and you're a hater or a racist or a whatever. But here's the rub. If your power comes from being a victim, you have every interest in ensuring that your victimhood is never addressed, that you remain a victim. I think Douglas Murray's thesis is right. You've had a whole series of movements to correct things that have needed correcting in the West. And by the way, what system delivers the ability to peacefully correct things that are wrong better than liberal participatory democracy? Mm-hmm. And you think of the civil rights movement and that incredible speech. I look forward to the day when my children are judged by the content of their character, not the colour of their skin. So all of these movements, you know, I mean, I have 3 daughters. It's incredibly important to me that they're paid properly for their work, or whatever it happens to be. As Douglas Murray says, you know, that train has moved with a lot of cabooses in its carriage onto the platform. It's starting to slow down. We've made tremendous progress. If you like, in Martin Luther's language, those who have been marginalised and sidelined have been allowed to join the citizenry. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, the train, the governor's let go. And just when you're getting close to the station, it's taken off.
So how do you untether people from that then, right? So I've heard Douglas talk about this. I've discussed it with him. But how do you then untether people from the idea that they're still oppressed when they're no longer oppressed, if oppression can be used to control people? That's a pretty addicting feeling right there.
Well, this is the great problem, I think, of victimhood politics. Now, a good friend of mine from the left in Australia, a very noble, old, classic sort of Australian socialist, and I've always regarded him as a man of noble intent. And he said, you know, look, we were about, in the labour movement, universalism. So if someone was oppressed or sidelined or not being looked after properly, the idea was to elevate their status so they were part of the citizenry. That's what Martin Luther King was trying to do in this country. But now we've created a new caste system, a new aristocracy. So a victim, often self-proclaimed, will say, I've got all of these grievances and I'm owed and I need those addressed. And society's left saying, well, if we say sorry and try and meet them, hope you'll appreciate it. But no, they'll say, we were owed. Mm-hmm. If you don't, then you confirm their victimhood and you're a hater or a racist or a whatever. But here's the rub. If your power comes from being a victim, you have every interest in ensuring that your victimhood is never addressed, that you remain a victim.
And that's why you can't untether it from that train.
Well, can I say to you, I think this is proving to be such an unsatisfactory philosophy for people who find themselves, you know, the rush for a university student, oh, I'm a victim, I'm owed. But as they think it through, I think, and you and I have seen this, I think there's a lot of people realising that's not very sustaining. And in the end, I don't want to be a victim. I want to be a full member of the community, and I want to pull my weight. And we've got to play to the better angels.
Isn't it funny that we know in real life, when you're around friends or family, people that you socialize with, nobody wants to be around a victim. Nobody wants to be around someone endlessly complaining all the time. You want to be around people that impress you, that inspire you, that make you laugh, that have joy in the world, that can share something good with you. And yet somehow a movement has been created that somehow seems sexy, based on something that is so anti how any of us, if we really thought about our lives, would ever really want to be.
Let's be clear, and I think you and I would agree on this, there are people who have very legitimate grievances.
Absolutely.
The people Martin Luther King was talking about, if I can say this in your country as somebody who's not American, I mean, those grievances were deep and real and raw and horrible. For anybody who's studied Jimmy Crow and what happened, and it's extraordinary. I hope you don't mind me saying that in your country.
No, of course.
As a visitor.
You're saying the truth.
Stay there. I mean, the whole point is to lift yourself out of it and join the rest of the community. I mean, again, they're hackneyed to death. I know everybody talks about it, but Kennedy asked not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. We've reversed it. We've reversed the idea of citizenship. So now we say, I demand my country meet my needs. But as you say, you don't want to stay there. One of the most remarkable men in Australia, he's just retired, he's a very old man now, was the man Frank Lowy behind Westfield. I see them even here in America, shopping centres.
Huh. Yeah, we've got one right here.
Now, his whole family, he escaped the Holocaust, but his family was wiped out. He was a little boy one day, watched his father go off to work, and he never came back. And he talks about how he sat in the window day after day after day. He sat by the window waiting for Dad to come home. Dad never did.
Jeez.
And the whole Holocaust thing. And that was appalling. I mean, how any human being could do what the Nazis did to other human beings is beyond my comprehension. But if a man like that had spent the rest of his life saying, I am a victim, I'm owed, fix up my victimhood. Now, I feel deeply for what he went through, but I respect him hugely for saying, I'm not going to play the victim card. And he's gone out and created jobs for goodness only knows how many Australians. I see shopping centres here in America and so on. It's been a success story. And we can sympathise with what he went through, but we can delight in the fact that he has chosen to be a positive, forward-looking person. And, if you like, has confronted those demons by rising above them and denying them oxygen, if I can put it that way.
Yeah, so that's, before we go too far down the political rabbit hole, because I can sense where the richness of this conversation is, I just want to talk about your story a little bit. You come from a 6th-generation farming family, and somehow went into politics. Can you explain a little bit of that?
Scottish ancestry, which is very common in rural Australia. And in rural Australia, farming and grazing was the way to go. It's a rough country to farm in because of the unreliable climate. Scots were very good at it because they, Scott in this poor land and a rough climate. And so, my family's had, I regard, if I've done one brilliant thing, I chose my parents well. They were Australian.
Good move, good move.
And, the thing is that, so I've been very fortunate. I've seen them go through terrible ups and downs. My family was decimated by both the First and Second World War because Australia was deeply integrated in both. Double the number of Australians died in the First World War as did Americans. It was extraordinary, the level of engagement in international affairs that Australia's taken up, even when it was very young. But I went to school and university in Sydney and had never contemplated a political career, although I was always fascinated by the great debates. And I've always seen our society as a result of fierce debates that are not personalised at their best. We're the result of the clash of great ideas. Look at the debates that went into the independence of America. The thinking, the depth of understanding, the belief in the worth and dignity of all, which is where your freedom motive, I believe, comes from in this country. But I was literally headhunted by a retiring federal member at the precocious age of 27. He said, I'm going to retire and I think you should have a go in my place. And I said, what at, sir? And
what did he see in you? If you were coming from a farming family, what did he know about you that he thought this guy could do it?
Well, it's an interesting question in a way, and I can answer it honestly. I'd been at a public meeting where he'd said something about, he was from the conservative side of politics, he'd said something about the left side of politics, and I thought he'd completely missed the point. So I stood up and remonstrated firmly, but not personally. And he actually said to me, I think you should have a go because you said something, I said something that you disagreed with, and you took it up in a good-humoured but effective way without attacking me. That's what he actually said to me. So,
and that's basically what your guiding principle has been throughout politics and now even out of politics. I mean, you're having conversations. Jordan and I sat down with you for your show, which was in front of a live group of people, and it was exactly this. It was exactly, let's work through this stuff instead of, breaking each other's backs.
Well, I've just always deeply, deeply believed, and it stems from my Christian belief, that I'm not, it's not for me to judge others. It is for me to engage in the contest of ideas, and I ought to believe passionately in a vigorous debate. Our parliament in Australia is very adversarial, and people often complain about it. And I say, look, let's split this into its two components. You actually want your parliamentarians to believe in things deeply, and there ought to be a great clash over people's versions of how best to take the place forward. What you're really objecting to, I hope, is not that clash of ideas, but when it's personalised, when people give or take offence. I've just never seen the point of it. I've never seen that it's taken anybody anywhere.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop yelling, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.